State-run electricity producer denies wrongdoing over coal mine purchase. Court setback for lawmaker Leung Kwok-hong. And insecticide blamed for mass poisoning deaths in India.
Good evening. There are now calls to investigate state-owned electricity producer China Resources Power. A group of shareholders has filed a lawsuit against the company's directors for causing serious loss and damage over the acquisition of coal mines in Shanxi province. The court hearing involving the Hong Kong-listed firm will be held next month. Diane To has our top story.
The shareholders, with a mainland lawyer by their side, held a press conference in Beijing this morning. They filed a lawsuit at Hong Kong's High Court earlier this month, accusing the China Resources Power Management of causing serious loss and damage to the company. It allegedly intentionally overpaid for 3 Shanxi coal mines in 2010, even though some of their mining permits had already expired. The shareholders are suing 20 former and current board directors, including Chairman Zhou Junqing and independent directors Elsie Leung and Raymond Chen from Hong Kong. The lawyer said the directors had breached their duty to look after the interests of the Hong Kong-listed company and its shareholders. He said there's evidence to prove the company was aware that the deal was legally flawed, yet the directors approved it. The plaintiffs also called it ridiculous that the company didn't release information about the acquisition and called on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange to suspend the trading of its shares for the time being. The Securities and Futures Commission here in Hong Kong has begun looking into the case. The case will be heard at the High Court on August 5th. This comes as mainland journalist Wang Wenji made similar allegations, claiming on his website Chairman Song Lin of parent company China Resources Holdings was responsible for the loss of billions of yuan of state-owned assets. Wang has also reported the case to the Chinese government's disciplinary body. China Resources Power issued a statement today denying the allegations. It insisted that a state-approved independent consultant conducted a valuation of the mines and that the final acquisition prices were lower than the valuations. The firm also pointed out that it had no need to report the deal to the Hong Kong Stock Exchange because the equity in the acquisition was below 50%, the threshold for filings. Diane To, TVB News.
Here in Hong Kong, lawmaker Leung Kwok-hong may lose his LegCo seat. This after the Court of Appeal rejected his bid to challenge an earlier ruling relating to a LegCo filibuster last year and ordered him to pay all the legal costs. Leung says he could go bankrupt as a result. Evelyn Leung reports.
Leung Kwok-hong was not at the court today for the verdict. The Court of Appeal rejected the lawmaker's bid to challenge the dismissal of a judicial review against a decision by the Legislative Council President to end the filibuster last year. The court said many arguments put forward by Leung were repetitive. It also ordered him to pay all the legal costs. Leung had taken part in a filibuster during a LegCo debate over by-elections. LegCo President Zhang Yuk-sing put an end to the filibuster. Leung then filed a judicial review against the decision, which had been rejected twice by the court. He was seeking approval from the Court of Appeal to take the case to the Court of Final Appeal. Leung met the press later on in the day and expressed disappointment towards the ruling. If the court can't clearly say whether it is lawful for the LegCo president to end the filibuster, then the separation of powers among the legislative, executive and judicial branches has failed, Leung said. The lawmaker added he could go bankrupt if he has to pay the legal costs. That, according to the Basic Law, could cost Leung his LegCo seat. Leung also said he has not ruled out taking his case directly to the Court of Final Appeal. Evelyn Leung, TVB News.
Well, Hong Kong has reported the year's second case of Japanese encephalitis. Authorities believe the latest victim contracted the disease locally. The 52-year-old victim is now in a serious condition and is receiving treatment at Tuen Mun Hospital. He lives in Tin Soi Wai. The man displayed symptoms such as a fever and headache last Saturday. The Centre for Health Protection believes he and the other patient were bitten by mosquitoes that had caught the disease from either pigs or wild birds. However, Authorities say the chances of a major outbreak of Japanese encephalitis are slim.
In Hong Kong, we have regular mosquito control activities under the supervision of the steering committee chaired by our permanent secretary. Before the mosquito season arrived, the steering committee has already met in the early part of this year, and a series of mosquito control measures have been introduced or have been implemented in the past several months. We will further step up those mosquito control measures, particularly around the Tin Shui Wai, Lau Fau Shan areas.
Experts from the United Nations and the United States are headed to Panama to examine weapons smuggled under mounds of sugar on a North Korean cargo ship. Pyongyang is demanding that Panama release the ship and its crew. Panama's security minister confirmed a team of experts from the UN will arrive on August 5th to verify the weapons. This piles even more pressure on Pyongyang over a possible breach of UN sanctions. Cuba remains adamant the missile equipment, MiG fighter jets, and other arms on board are obsolete and were slated for repairs in North Korea. Around 350 police and Border Patrol officials are now combing through the ship. Before their arrest, the ship's crew burned the electrical system to disable the ship, which has slowed the process of unloading the vessel.
Alexei Navalny, one of Russia's leading opposition figures, was convicted of embezzlement today and sentenced to 5 years in jail. His supporters claim the case was politically motivated to muzzle the outspoken Kremlin critic and intimidate his supporters. He was found guilty of heading a group which embezzled 16 million rubles worth of timber from a state-owned company back in 2009. Writing on the social networking site Twitter, Navalny said he wasn't surprised at the verdict, given his constant criticism of Russian President Vladimir Putin. He had planned on contesting the 2018 presidential election, but today's verdict makes that an unlikely prospect.
In India, authorities are dealing with one of the deadliest outbreaks of food poisoning in years. At least 23 children have died and dozens remain hospitalized after eating food contaminated with a pesticide used to kill insects. Within minutes of eating a meal of rice and potato curry, children at a school in Mashroq village of Chopra began to fall sick 2 days ago. Also ill from eating the food is the cook at the center of the food poisoning outbreak, who admits the cooking oil she used looked highly suspect. This sickened child says students never made it home as so many fainted on their way back. Opposition parties say more lives could have been saved had the Janata Dal party-led government responded sooner to what was clearly a life-and-death situation. Dozens of angry people took to the streets, pelting a police station with stones, setting ablaze buses and other vehicles, and shouting slogans denouncing the state government.
The doctors have been saying that if this evacuation, which is about 80 kilometers away from Patna, had been taken, if it was done in time, possibly many lives would live.
While the majority of the ill are recovering slowly, officials fear the death toll may go up as a number of children remain in critical condition, battling for their lives. Autopsy reports on the children who've died so far confirm they were poisoned by insecticide. Investigators are now trying to determine if the insecticide was mixed in the food accidentally or intentionally. What they do find suspect is that the school's headmistress fled right after the tainted food deaths. In spite of the cook's complaint that the cooking oil smelled foul, the headmistress insisted on its use. A manhunt has been launched to nab the school's principal, as well as her husband, who supplied the groceries. Rolling Stone magazine is taking a lot of heat for featuring the surviving Boston Marathon bombing suspect on the cover of its next issue. Several retailers are already boycotting that particular issue. Many say the August edition features Dzhokhar Tsarnaev as a rock star rather than a suspect in the Boston bombings that killed 3 people and wounded 260 others. The mayor of Boston expressed outrage and accused the magazine of glorifying a terrorist. A man whose nephews each lost a leg in the blast said the only way Tsarnaev should be featured is in shackles and a prison jumpsuit. Magazine editors claim their goal is to offer readers a better understanding of how a tragedy like this can happen.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says ties with the United States are more important than a squabble about the activities of the secret services. It was Putin's clearest signal yet that he won't let the dispute over whistleblower Edward Snowden derail relations with Washington. The former spy agency contractor remains in a transit zone of a Moscow airport. Putin has so far kept an arm's length from Snowden, who's wanted in the US on espionage charges. Meanwhile, a Russian lawyer who's had contact with Snowden says the whistleblower may eventually apply for citizenship in Russia. Natalie Kucherina earlier delivered Snowden's official request for temporary asylum in Russia. It's unclear how Putin's comments will affect that request.
And still ahead in our newscast, boosting the local recycling industry. The city's first hydropower system, and the Jialong adventure for a Hong Kong-based academic.
Now we're back tonight with more international news. Greece's parliament passed another round of austerity measures as thousands of people protested outside. The latest bill will see more public sector jobs cut, as demanded by the country's creditors to keep vital bailout loans flowing. Alan Buckner reports.
The measures passed by Greece's shaky coalition include a scheme that will see about 25,000 workers, mostly teachers and municipal police, either transferred or laid off. The country already has an unemployment rate of 27%. Up to 5,000 people protested outside the parliament as the bill was passed. This teacher said, with one vote, they murdered thousands of people. Riot police were deployed to hold the demonstrators back, but the reaction in the middle of the summer holiday season was subdued compared with earlier violent protests. Earlier in the day, mayors from across the country staged a march, saying the layoffs of teachers and police will shrink their municipalities and erode their own control over their cities. This mayor said, what we built in so many years in local government is now being destroyed in an unconstitutional manner. Greece has been bailed out twice with 240 billion euros worth of aid that came with a demand to meet certain austerity requirements. That's kept Greece out of bankruptcy since 2010, but the austerity measures imposed have also caused a dramatic increase in poverty and unemployment. It was the first major test for Conservative Prime Minister Antonis Samaras' two-party coalition. Last month, a left-wing party quit the coalition over the abrupt shutdown of the state broadcaster. Alan Buckner, TVB News.
U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke has told a congressional committee that the Fed won't necessarily start scaling back its bond buying program later this year. When Bernanke suggested last month that the economic stimulus might be slowed later this year, it sent markets around the world reeling. Bernanke expressed more flexibility this time round, saying if the economic recovery continues at its current pace, the bond buying would still be reduced later this year.
On the other hand, if the outlook for employment were to become relatively less favorable, if inflation did not appear to be moving back toward 2%, or financial conditions, which have tightened recently, were judged to be insufficiently accommodative to allow us to attain our mandated objectives, the current pace of purchases could be maintained for longer.
Back locally, green group Friends of the Earth blames government indifference for Hong Kong's ongoing waste management crisis. As Joao da Silva reports, the NGO has teamed up with others to demand that the government live up to its promise to energize the city's recycling industry.
Glass, wood and certain types of plastic, low-value recyclable materials filling up the city's landfills. The environmental group Friends of the Earth says nearly 2,300 tons of this stuff goes into the dump sites. Friends of the Earth says the city's successive governments are to blame for this waste.
Actually, if the government is really keen and act on it to help the recycling industry, then it somehow will gradually create an environmental industry in terms of waste management in Hong Kong. But this was only mentioned by previous Chief Executive Donald Tsang.
But then, according to Lau, nothing concrete happened. Now the group is joining hands with 83 recycling industry representatives to urge the government to put its money where its mouth is. They want a package of measures from Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying's administration that includes rent and transport subsidies, as well as raising public awareness about recycling and waste reduction. Friends of the Earth says a quarter of the 9,000 tons of rubbish dropped into the city's landfills every day is composed of these low-value recyclables. Actually recycling these materials would thus significantly reduce the need for further landfill space. Juan de Silva, TVB News.
Hong Kong's first hydro power plant has opened in Tuen Mun. Experts say it's environmentally friendly and reduces the cost of electricity. The Water Supplies Department will build a second generator by 2015 and is planning to install more hydropower facilities around town. Ronnie Samtani takes a closer look.
Innovative, eco-friendly, and energy efficient. Goals that the Water Supplies Department was hoping to achieve when developing this hydropower plant. Using a water turbine generator and untreated water from the Tuen Mun Water Treatment Works plant, the system is able to produce up to 500 kilowatts of electrical power every day.
The turbine generator works on the hydraulic analysis and hydraulic model. One is the pressure of the water and flow of the water. And this criteria will make the generator works. And the power will be transmitted to the generator. And the generator will generate the electricity for use.
The new facility was completed in May and successfully converts water into electricity to power a high-voltage water pumping station. It is automated via a computer system that adjusts the generator's speed. Leung says hydropower is superior to other forms of renewable energy.
This is really clean and sustainable, right? For the other, the efficiency is not that high, but hydropower has a very high efficiency. We have, say, 70 to 80% efficiency. We're talking about 80% of the water power is generated into electricity.
The Water Supplies Department will be installing a second turbine generator, and that's expected to be completed in 2015. Leung said once both generators are up and running, it will be able to reduce 2,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions a year. The hydropower plant currently produces 3 million kilowatts of electricity for the Tuen Mun Water Treatment Works plant. The Water Supplies Department is now looking into building similar facilities in other locations. Ronnie Samtani, TVB News.
The standby signal number 1 is no longer in effect as Tropical Storm Cimarron moves away from Hong Kong. The storm is heading towards the coastal areas of eastern Guangdong and southern Fujian and is expected to make landfall sometime this evening. Standby signal was canceled at 3:40 p.m. Still, Cimarron's outer rain bands are expected to affect the coastal region of Guangdong today and tomorrow. All right, Tony, my favorite time of the day, which is to see what's happening in sports.
That's right, we've got some good action to tee off to begin with, golf, of course. And the third golf major of the year has teed off in Scotland with Tiger Woods and US Open champion Justin Rose, the two favourites to win this year's crown at St Andrews. Another top-ranked player said those with the most experience are the ones who usually thrive in the British Open.
You know, it's guys that have a lot of control on their golf ball. You know, you don't get too many sort of unknowns or surprises that win at Muirfield, and yeah, because of that, I like that. I think it's going to suit the players that have experience, that know how to play links, that are in control of their game, and obviously, you know, the top players maybe have a little bit of advantage. So.
On to football now. Paraguay's Olimpia have the initiative after the first leg of the Copa Libertadores final.
It's that time of the year again when the top two clubs in South America play in the final of the continent's version of the Champions League. And Paraguay's Olimpia drew first blood in their quest to win a fourth Copa Libertadores title. Their opponent, Atletico Mineiro of Brazil, thought they had scored, but their effort was ruled out for offside. Minutes later, the home team scored through a well-taken goal from Alejandro Silva. Despite the setback, Atletico continued to threaten and were unlucky not to equalise in the second half. Olympia's Wilson Petoni sealed a 2-0 win deep in injury time off a free kick, but Atletico will come out with all guns blazing when they host the second leg in Brazil next week. Halfway around the world in Thailand, English club Chelsea began their pre-season campaign with a 1-0 win over the Singer All-Stars in Bangkok. But the focus was less on Chelsea's performance than whether they would poach Wayne Rooney from Manchester United. The Blues confirmed an offer was made, but was rejected. Chelsea boss Jose Mourinho has stated that Rooney is one of his top targets during the summer transfer season.
And finally, a Baptist University biology professor has come back from an adventure in the depths of the South China Sea aboard the Jialong submersible. And he's brought goodies. Here's Diane To.
China-made Jialong boasts of being the world's only manned submersible that can travel as deep as 7,000 meters underwater. It collected rare animal specimens and mineral samples during recent expeditions in the South China Sea and the Pacific Ocean. As the first Hong Kong participant, Baptist University biology professor Chu Jiangwen feels he's the lucky one.
It's a wonderful experience, lifetime, a unique experience. It's an experience you won't get in shallow water, and it's beneficial to my teaching.
In Jialong's latest voyage, he and 13 other crew members were taken to a location about a night's travel away from Xiamen. They studied an ancient underwater volcano that's 15 million years old and collected samples of several deep-sea creatures.
It's also a good experience to share with Hong Kong citizens about deep-sea research in South China Sea, deep-sea research development in China, and opportunities for further research in this area in environmental protection, in the protection of biological resources in the deep sea.
Chu said he never used to go out to sea much, so this proved a bit of a challenge for him as he overcame seasickness, even though he had 2 weeks of training beforehand. Diane To, TVB News.
And that's a wrap of our news. Thanks for joining us.
Have a very good night.
Good evening. It was mainly cloudy with some showers today. At 5 p.m., a broad area of low pressure was developing over the central part of the South China Sea and bringing unsettled weather to the region. Today's temperatures ranged from 24.6 to 30.4 degrees, and the relative humidity was between 71 to 98%, moderate northeasterly winds. The current temperature is now standing at 29.2 degrees Celsius. 0.4 millimeters of rain has been recorded since midnight. So, Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? Mainly cloudy with a few showers and isolated thunderstorms tomorrow. Temperatures will range from 27 to 31 degrees. Expect showers and squally thunderstorms in the following few days. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 15 to 70, and the air pollution level will range from low to high. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 7. And now to the latest global weather update. Cloudy in Shanghai, showers in Taipei, rain in Xiamen. Rain in Guangzhou, showers in Macau and Chengdu. Cloudy in Beijing, Seoul, and Tokyo. Thunderstorms in Bangkok, rain in Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Bright in Kuala Lumpur, cloudy in Singapore, showers in Jakarta. Thunderstorms in New Delhi, rain in Karachi and Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo, bright in Nairobi. Showers in Brisbane and Melbourne, rain in Sydney, bright in Auckland. Showers in Toronto, bright in New York. Sunny in Vancouver, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. And it's sunny in London and Paris, bright in Amsterdam and Frankfurt, showers in Zurich. And that's the weather. Good night.